Hello, you wonderful people, and welcome to another episode of Not Too Comic Book. This being a show where we talk about TV shows that are adaptations of comic books. For today's episode, I'm going to talk about the season finale, maybe even the series finale. I'll look it up afterwards for Alice in Borderland. A great season finale. A lot of really interesting things went down in this episode, so let's break it down. So the reason why I don't ever look that up ahead of time before I do my recordings, I wait to the end of, because I want to get all my thoughts out and focus on, what we got. Like I said, the way this is set up, you're almost like, this seems like it could be a series finale, but it also could just be straight up a season finale. Having never read the manga, I don't know how much of this has, been covered, how much of the manga story has been covered. Regardless, let's get into it. First and foremost, to start where we were picking up where we left off last episode. Now it's the final game, and Mira's like, "Cool, we're gonna play croquet." I'm like, "What? The final game is a game of no," and she's like, "Yeah, let's do this." And she's like, "You don't even have to win. All you have to do is not quit after 3 rounds." Which I'm like, that's interesting. That's all you have to do. You don't even have to win. You could lose the game, but as long as you play those 3 rounds all the way through, you win. So you're like, that's obviously, once again, it's a heart game. It's a Queen of Hearts game. So this is going to be the toughest of tough, especially considering it's the final game too. It's going to be the toughest of all of the games. And it feels very poetic considering this will be Arisu's 3rd heart game. Maybe Usagi's only her 2nd one. It feels very poetic too, considering this is kind of end all be all when you think about Riot. The heart games have played a major role in his adventure and his growth and leading him to where he is. Whether it's losing once again episode 3 where he lost everyone in season 1, to the beach situation with the witch hunt. But yeah, when it's all said and done, it's it's a croquet game, and it's really? Is this all it is? It's okay. But then, Mira starts dragging it along because you could tell, Usagi's wounds are bleeding again. And it's okay, we need to hurry this up. But she's dragging things out. She wins the 1st round. Arisu wins the 2nd round. And she's like, oh, it's time for tea. It's she's dragging it out. Why is she dragging it out? I figured she was doing that more so because, Usagi's wounds are weakening, getting worse. But it's playing because she knows it. Because, once again, Arisu got so caught up in it, forgets what this game is all about. It's all about playing with your heart. Because, these games in particular are never what you think they are. Because there's a level of, this is an extra layer of mind game that's going on here. So it's okay, so when it's all said and done, they're stopping for tea, and Arisu's I want answers, but Usagi's no, don't worry about it. But for Arisu, answers has been his driving force since the beginning. Kurube, Chota, and Shibuki, that was the thing of hey, we're going to go out there, we're going to find this beach and maybe find out answers about what this is all about and stuff like that. That has been the driving force of, trying to understand, why did my friends have to die? What is this all about? And then Mira's all right, do you really want to know the truth that badly? Okay. And then she starts going yeah, basically the long run of it is, she's hey, this is all virtual reality. I was shut up. Shut up. Are we really doing this? Because I won't spoil it. This has a similar ending to something. I mean, I'm sure there's a lot of things that kind of have this type of ending, but there was some, I don't even want to reference what I don't want to even highly reference something, because it is something oh God, I don't even want to talk about that because it's spoilers. It's so hard to talk about, but I was wow, I was thinking that, but holy crap. I was wow. Because she basically went into it, because it really fit a lot of stuff I was wondering about, because I brought it up in 2 episodes ago when Kuina went to the hospital her mom was in. It specifically said her mom was admitted June 2021 or something. And I was wait, what? I was I found that so fascinating. Having rewatched season 1, and maybe I missed it, and it has always been there. The show never gave specifics about the date. I'd even reference manga and some manga and manhwa and webtoons will be 20XXX. I mean, using 2 X's to kind of block out the last dates, because when I know the Persona games do that, for example, specifically 5 does that. So I thought that's what was kind of going on. I was there had to be a significant reason for that. And now she's like, oh yeah, like you think you're from this particular time. It's like, no, in actuality, we're from the year 3021. And basically you've lived in this, like, as time is going on and advancements in science and technology have gotten to the point now humans can basically live forever, which borderlines on some like altered carbon type of shit. And then it's like, and then basically you're living in this virtual reality, because in that moment, Odysseus staring and he sees like a camera, and I was like, at first I was like, oh, is this being broadcast to everyone? Is it so everyone can hear the truth of what's going on in this game? But it doesn't seem like that's the case. And then she's just like, yeah, you guys are, you just don't remember, but you're so locked into this virtual, because this is how everyone lives now. Like everyone, like basically like 10 years from now, like virtual reality had gotten to advance to such a degree in 2031 or whatever, and that ended up, you know, now humans are where they are, where it's like, yeah, this is your reality now. It's easier because you want to go back to a time where death and everything really mattered, like, because now life is stagnant because you can go on forever and ever, and it's like, wait, is that the truth? And she's like, just kidding. You're just like, oh my god, she gives off. I think there's a character, she's very character type. Without spoiling anything, she's very reminiscent of The Ultimate Despair. She gives off those type of vibes. And I guess, like, once again, that's a kind of a series character type. But it's like, yeah, that's what that was. But she was like, no, I'm just kidding. It's like, all right, fine. You want to know the real truth is, aliens came and they're basically putting you all through this. This is some giant experiment, and now rich people survive in the grounds below, and they bet on whether or not you will survive or not, because you're not really real humans. You're actually androids that were given fake memories. And it's like, well, actually, just kidding. It's like, I was like, because I wonder, have they, like, is that based on just a TV like? That has to be something directly from the manga. I wonder were those probably like the running theories when the series was originally running. I've never checked that side of the internet, but I'm sure there are plenty of theorizing. Like, I mean, I do it for TV shows and movies. I'm sure plenty of people do that with manga when it's like, especially like, you know, a week or bi-weekly release schedule of like a manga or something like that, that people would be like, oh god, like people are probably theorizing like, oh, what is this shit going to be? Is it going to be a thing of, oh, this is all virtual reality, or oh, this is all aliens? I feel like those are the two easy ones that people, oh, it's that, oh, it's not that, is it that, oh, it's not that, then what the fuck is it? And then, you know, then she actually kind of provokes Odysseus a little bit by being like, hey, you know that I'm actually the one who came up with the Seven Hearts game, the one that killed Kurube and Chota. It's like, oh. And then he pulls up the shotgun and he's about to shoot her, but he goes, that's exactly what you want, isn't it? Because the moment I kill you, this game will go on forever and ever, because there's no winning it, because, oh, I can't take my turn because you're not alive to take your turn. So it's going to be, I'm stuck here forever playing this game, and the games will never end, and everyone's visas will eventually run out and everyone will die. Once again, some very Ultimate Despair-esque shit. And I made that comparison of what this kind of was all going to kind of be about, like, right, bringing you to such great hope just to shatter it. And in that moment, she's like, fine, you know, you really, really want to know the truth? And fine, think about these games. Like, why would this be like, oh, some virtual reality thing, or aliens? These games you've been playing, tag, hide and seek, those are children's games. And the fact of the matter is, she's kind of implying, like, if this was like some virtual reality thing, if this was some alien species, wouldn't the games be a little bit more elaborate than just tag? The fact is, these are type of games that only your imagination, it's like only someone like you could survive this long because of that. It's like, as far as your imagination can stretch is what the centerfold of these games, because she's like, the 1,500 milligrams inside of your brain is like, what, basically this is all in your head. I'm your doctor. I was like, oh my god, we're pulling a fucking, I'll go ahead and say it, we're pulling a little bit of a Moon Knight here. That's not really even a spoiler, because it's like, that's part of the character, you know. Yes, the TV show did things a little differently, but it also leans into some runs of it where it's like, hey, Moon Knight's not actually powered by some moon god named Khonshu. He's actually crazy, and it's all in, well, let's not use the word crazy. He has, dissociative identity disorder, and it's all inside of his head. The magic powers and everything. So he's like Batman more so in those type of stories. But with just, like I said, a dissociative personality thing going on. She's like, yeah, I'm treating you. Which I should also note, the actress who plays Mira, she looks so different as the Doctor than herself. But I think it's also probably because because she's a doctor, she probably wasn't wearing as much makeup. It's also like, I can only assume the hair she has as Mira, that might be a wig. Because it's like her hair being so different made her look like a completely different person. I was like, wow, it almost doesn't seem like the same actress. I mean, to be fair, it's the actress who plays Kawina's the same way, when without seeing her with the dreads and stuff, or the braids and stuff, it was kind of it's almost like weird, seeing everyone outside of their roles in this, but, in some cases. But either way, she's like, yeah, I'm your doctor. I was like, that's fascinating. Because I'm sure there's plenty of stories that have done something like this. Because I know there's an episode of Buffy the Vampire Slayer that did an episode like this. I've never watched a lot of Buffy, but it's an episode I definitely remember where a similar thing happened. But the story kind of ends depressingly, because it's like, hey, she chose to stay in that world where, hey, I'm a vampire slayer. And in the episode, it's like, oh my God, she either retreated into her mind and just finally died in this world. And she's just kind of stuck in this catatonic state, meaning everything really was inside of your head. Or maybe it's just meant to kind of be like, oh, was it really? I don't know if there's anything in the show that ever retconned that necessarily. But, a more well-versed Buffy fan would probably give me an answer to that. Either way, putting tangents and all that aside, we're talking about this and not Buffy. But it's just that interesting parallel, right. And now she's making Arisu realize, right, he basically, when Chota and Karube died, he had a mental break. Because it's like, no, if, and Usagi's like, right, if that happened, you'd be saying that everything that happened to me in my life is just something you made up. But she's like, no, you are living, Usagi, but are you sure you're being seen the way Arisu sees you? And we see that, right, she lost her dad, so she's in the same facility as well. And I was like, dude, are we implying that every character he's ever met over the course of this show is a patient in this facility or something like that? And she's trying to talk him down. I'm like, hey, the fact is, that day, the fireworks happened, Karube and Chota got hit by a car and died, and it became too much for you. And it's like, right, living and then asking that question, why did I live? Why didn't they survive my life? Because she's like, you basically going through your entire life feeling like your life wasn't really worth living just because you felt like you were kind of worthless. Which there is some aspect, and this is one of those things where it's like, we could get a little, a little serious here in the regard. I felt that before, where almost, questioning your own existence. I mean, we all have those existential moments. I've definitely considered it's sad to say, but I connected with Arisu in that moment, because I do believe that she was tugging on something that was already there, where he did feel like his life was useless. It's like, right, his dad even saying yeah, why are you even alive? If you're just is this what you're going to do with the rest of your life? And not knowing what you're going to do with the rest of life, what your life really is, and being able to define that was such a, and Mira's words are working on him, and he's just like, I'm sorry, why am I alive? And she's like, yeah, that's kind of the big thing. And you had to create this world that kind of lends to you playing these games and stuff, and it's about trying to find that answer in itself. So it's like, right, are you willing to quit the game? But then Usagi's trying to stop him, and then she's like, wait, wait, quit the game. She's like, right, I got so caught up in everything, I forgot. I'm also participating in this game too. So she got drawn into this, the illusion that was kind of created. And so she's trying to reach Arisu, who's trying to take some pills. I was curious if him physically taking the pills, I didn't know if that was because they didn't drink the drinks yet. So because that is most likely those were poisoned or something. But part of me almost wondered, could it be that in real life he's got the shotgun and he's about to pull the trigger? I thought that's what it might have been. And she slaps the glass out of his hand, and then she points the glass at Mira. She holds it with one hand, holds one hand with the other hand. It was almost I was like, wait, are you actually holding the gun right now? And it's just appearing like it's glass. But then she slices her own wrist because it turns out it really was glass. And she's like, right, you want to believe that this isn't real? Well, then believe this. And she slices open her arms and it's like, please wake up, Artisu. But he had given up. And I love that, like, that montage of him in different places over the course of the series. And you're just laying there. But then, like, she's there in front of him. And for her, she makes a comment of, like, you wanting to know the meaning of your life. Like, everyone wants to know that. It's different for every person, that you don't need an answer. But you and me, we were finding that together. And for her, it's like, for me, that was enough. And eventually, like, she kept pushing Mira, being like, oh, you really give up? Oh, I win. But then it's like, no. He holds on to Usagi. He's like, please hold on. He's like, I just want to, hold your hand one more time. She's even saying stuff like, right, I love to climb that island, a mountain with you at least once. Even if arguing would be fine sometimes. It's like, as long as I get to stay by your side. She's like, being able to say good morning to you tomorrow. Like, just living to do that. That is enough to keep them going. And so for Arisu, it's like, no, let's continue the game. And in that moment, Mira starts crying, and I was like, whoa. And then, like, we snap back to all of this, and Mira's like, here, take this. She was like, that was actually very moving. So not only for your sake, but for her sake, let's continue the game. And they keep it going. It's just casual croquet at this point in time. And she's like, she's getting excited, and he's getting excited about winning. And then ultimately, she ends up winning the game. And she's like, yes. It's like, yeah, but regardless of it, I was like, but you did it. You went 3 rounds. You won. And for him, it's like, well, will you now give me the answer? And she's like, you'll have to wait soon enough for it. Basically, when this game ends, you'll be given a choice, and what you choose will decide everything. Because for her, it's like, basically talking about how, like, life, basically it's like life is precious. It's so interesting considering how, like, manipulative she kind of came off, but it is a thing of, like, right, she's just another player in this game. And for her, it's like, right, she was excited, and I think impressed by this all. And it's like, right, you'll have to figure this all out. And obviously she dies. Blimp comes crashing down. Congratulations, fireworks in the air. It's like, you did it. So now, what happens now? And everyone has a choice. Do you want to take up residence here or not? And then we go around, and everyone, Aguni's like, I don't want it. And you see Akane's like Akane! She's dragging herself over. She's like, I don't want to live here. Chishia's like, I don't want to live here either, I think. And Naragi's like, I don't want to. Kuina says, like, she doesn't want to either, and she grabs An's hands and kind of, let's leave it here together. But then we see Yaba and Banda, and it's like, yep, they're still alive. And it's like, yeah, we definitely want to stay. And it's like, of course you guys do. So Arisu and Usagi say no. And then we kind of rewind it. Well, for a moment, he's in the bar with Kurube and Shota, and they're kind of laughing again. And he's like, I'm sorry. And they're like, oh, look at him. Sorry. Apologetic. He thinks, we sacrificed our lives so that he could keep going. He's like, then what was it all for? They're like, all those games you won, you'd have to basically be apologizing for the rest of your life. Like, those games you won, none of those challenges you ever won alone. I think it's because it's like kind of almost implying, like, right, we've always been by your side. So you've always had us with you winning it, and you've always had other people by your side. You never won any of this alone. There was not a single challenge you won alone in all of this. And it's like, yeah, and Kurube being like, oh, you think you're some destined chosen one? And it's like, no. He's like, then what is it? What do you want me to keep apologizing forever? And he grabs him and is like, don't be stupid. Just live your life. Once again, it's like, don't be so caught up in, like, right, the answer or why you have to do it. Just do it. Live your life. And, for him, he looks at both of them and he thanks them. And we rewind back to the beginning of the series, them hanging out together. And then you see, like, Usagi. Then you see, like, An, Tata, Naragi, Chishia, Kuina, on, like, you're seeing everyone, Hatcher, Aguni, and even, Akane, and you're like, wait, what the hell is this all about? And then, like, the fireworks happen, and they're not fireworks, and you're like, what the fuck is that? And it hits, I was like, were those missiles or something? And because everyone thought they were fireworks. It was a fucking meteorite. I'm like, you're fucking with me. It was a meteorite. It's like, that's insane. And then the entire city gets wiped. I was like, what the? Because at first I was like, wait, did they go back to life? Did they choose not staying? And they just, like, now they're just dead? But then Arisu wakes up. I was like, oh my fucking God. This was a death game, if any death game at all. Having never seen The World Ends With You, I'm like, is this kind of this kind of feels the world ends with you. Didn't these come out around the same time? Because this started in like 2010. I think The World Ends With You originally came out in 2010. Maybe not. I'm saying that having never completed, not knowing the story of The World Ends With You, I've only seen a little bit of the game, but I was always wondering if that was going to be like the shtick of the game. It seems like it is, because that's, right, they're going up against Reapers and stuff like that, and I was like, wait a minute. I was like, this life and death game was about literally life and death. So Arisu's alive, and I'm like, oh my God, everyone that chose not to go is still alive. And so Arisu wakes up in the hospital, and his brother's there, and he's like, hey, he's like, oh, you had us worried. And he's like, Dad cried, and Dad hasn't cried since Mom died. It's like, And he's like, right, because he finds out Chota and Karube are dead, and it's like, yeah, it's survivor's guilt. And you're like, he was like, yeah, he's like, it was only like any moment. He said, like, yeah, they said your heart stopped for a minute. I was like, dude, this entire series took place over a fucking minute. I was like, once again, I doubt this is the only, I know for sure this can't be the only series in general that's ever done this type of story, but I was like, that's so, I love stuff like that, where it's like, dude, it's like, oh, this entire thing has been under a minute, because you were trapped between life and death, and that's what was happening. It was a game trying to decide, like, right, are you your second chance of life, are you going to take it, Then we see, like, Naragi and Chishia beside each other, and it's like, Chishia kind of got banged up. Naragi got banged up. Obviously, like, his face is like kind of covered up, and he was like, "Oh, because you were kind of scum." Because Chishia was like, "Did your experience change too?" Like, when he's like, "I'm not sure yet," and Chishia is like, "Yeah," because he thinks his experience had changed him, like I thought it did. So it's like, oh, so you were kind of a bad guy too. So even the bad guys kind of ended up having a change of heart. So we see that Kuina sees her mom, and you're like, oh, like the moment that the nurse was helping her, I was like, she's gonna see her mom, and she does, but not just her mom, her dad too. Because like when we saw Kuina last season, seeing her mom, like showing her mom the new her, that we didn't see her dad, so we didn't know if her dad was still alive. But her dad's there, and it's like Hikari, and it's like, okay, so like your dad accepts you for you, and it's like, right, it's this situation brought her back to her family, and it's like, it's probably going to take some work, but they can be a whole family again. Then we get the On situation. I was like, wait, she's on operating table. I was like, oh, you're just gonna, and then I was like, she was still holding on. There was just a glimmer of her still holding on, or maybe the argument is she might have been gone, but Kuina touching her, being like, let's go. And it's like, and they get to be friends in this world. They have to be, I'm like, oh my God. And then Akane, whose leg is missing, is going like in her wheelchair going by, and she sees Aguni, and it's like, right, he's fighting to survive, isn't he? And it's like, yeah, he is. Oh my God. I didn't talk about it, but they listed off plenty of names that we would recognize that died in the meteorite impact. You're like, holy crap. Because now that also explains, like, oh, why there was mountainous areas and stuff like that. Because the world basically, and why it was specifically, hey, you get outside of Tokyo, what's out there? Because Tokyo was hit by, it was specifically like Shibuya City and like the surrounding areas were hit by the meteorite. And that's why everything manifested itself that way in this game. Oh my God. Then, we also see the little kid that Arisu and Usagi helped. I'm like, yeah, he's here. We see the lady who helped him out, who had her arm in a cast. I'm like, dude. I was like, this is wild. Holy shit, I'm like losing my mind, dude. Oh my god. And once again, it's not like it's a happy, happy, happy ending, because like, yeah, there's still plenty of characters that are dead. Like Chota and Karube and Tata. But like I said, they even listed off names like Arumi, for example, from the Jack of Hearts game. So, oh my god, dude. Oh yeah, they also obviously Shibuki as well. But Arisu ended up running into Usagi, and lo and behold, she's on a crutch because her legs, but also like, oh, her which arm was it? It was her right arm is well, because it's the opposite arm she's walking, it's kind of bandaged up, and you're like, I like that attention to detail, you know? And for Odyssey, it's like, wait, do I know you somewhere? And she's like, are you hitting on me? He's like, no, sorry. He's like, but what if I was hitting on you? Would that be a problem? And they're just kind of like, oh, I'm sorry, I shouldn't have said that, you know? But she's like, yeah, it does feel like we managed to, was it a year ago or two? She's like, I don't know, I forget, you know? And you're like, you two found your way back to each other. I'm like, that's all they wanted. And I'm like, all the stuff they listed off, they probably get to do it. Climb a mountain at least once. Walk hand in hand. Even if they argue and stuff like that. It's a new lease on life for everyone. It's so good. I was like, dude, this is a beautiful ending. I'm like, I was not expecting this, and that's why I was like, this feels like a series finale. I was like, but there has to be some like twist to it, and which there is, but we'll get to that in a little bit. But I'm like, at first I'm like, man, I'm riding high of like this ending, dude. And they have a second lease on life. Like, they might not remember it, but their experiences did change them. And it's putting their lives in a new direction, and they all are going to live their life to the fullest going forward, you know? I think they're all going to change for the better in the long run. I'm like, and I was like, oh, dude, that's amazing. And then at the very, very end, there's a deck of cards. The wind blows them away to reveal the last fucking card, because there's the Joker. Because that technically doesn't count. It's an oddball card in the deck. The Joker doesn't count. I don't know like the rules of why that works the way it does, but you're like, all right, so I guess there's still technically a special card left in all of this. So you're like, with that ending, you're like, so that feels like that's one of those endings of like, maybe there's still more. What about those who stay behind in the land of death? Like, do they get to just stay there and play the game continuously over and over again and become a part of this life and death system for those who find themselves in between? Like, you know, what it's probably meant to be left open-ended like that. Okay, so now that I've got all my thoughts out there, I looked into it and read an article. So, this is how the manga ends. This has told the second half of the manga story. So there is, like, the entire series is done, which is so interesting because I didn't see anything being like, oh, the final season, because I guess Netflix hasn't really decided if this is going to be the definitive final season or not. But I'm like, dude, this is a conclusive enough ending. It's satisfactory, but it leaves stuff open-ended. Be like, ooh, a Joker card, which I was reading into it. Apparently, there are two spin-off mangas. One, without spoiling it, is a little more direct. So if they wanted to make a season 3, it could be based on one of the spin-offs, not unless you like put both spin-offs together in one. I don't know if they canonically could work together or not. I just skimmed through like an article I was reading up about it, but it's like, yeah, this is a series finale. Because I skimmed through the trailer just enough the official trailer just to find a thumbnail, like I said, for my watch list this month, but I didn't watch the official trailer. I watched a teaser trailer, and I don't think it said anything about the final season. Usually, once again, Netflix is usually upfront about that. So I don't know whether they're still, because if they do make something going forward, it either had to be like, and we're just going to get creative with it, or we are adapting the spin-offs. So once again, the article I was reading was like, one is more likely than the other. Like I said, I don't even want to spoil the context of what that is about. So, but I could definitely see that playing into the Joker card we saw at the very, very end there, but if they wanted to say like, yeah, this is it, we're not even going to do a third season, I'm fine with that, dude, because and that's always my thing. tell the story you want to tell. This is adapted the entirety of the manga. Then you've done your job. Then I'm satisfied. I mean, because that was also the thing that was kind of making me go like, huh? Because I forget. Yes, you can squeeze it. I always underestimate how much of a manga or even a manhwa or a webtoon can be adapted into 30 minutes of an anime. We're talking an hour-long drama, like live action show. So it's like you're going to be burning through story way faster in some regards. And that also depends on how much they directly adapted and how much they might have changed for. I'm going to be looking into that afterwards, but it'd be if they wanted to do a third season, like I said, kind of get creative or adapt one of the spin-offs, or if not both the spin-offs, I'd be fine with that. But if they're like, yeah, we're ending this here, I'm totally fine with that. Nothing, like, based on what I've read online, nothing's definitively been said yet. Yeah, it just all depends on what Netflix decides to do with it. If they decide like, hey, we're going to end this there, but leave that cliffhanger like that, like I said, I'd be satisfied. I'd love to know what other people are thinking or feeling. I'm like, dude, I really liked season 1, and I enjoyed the ride even more so. I really, really liked it even more so watching it a second time through. But this season was fucking bananas, and I loved it. So that's great. Like I said, after I finish this recording, I'm gonna do some research into looking into some of the differences between between this live adaptation and the manga. But either way, if this is the end, if this is it, we have to walk away, then I have to applaud and thank everyone a part of the show. Cast, crew, everyone in front of the camera, behind the camera. Obviously, the original mangaka, I always never say that word right. The creator of the manga, for creating such a great story to begin with. For all the creative team that went behind adapting this. Thank you for bringing this amazing series, because this was a series I didn't even know about until like it first, like I started seeing trailers for it when the first season came out. I wasn't even aware of this manga at all. So for this, I really appreciate this show and everything, the cast and crew. I wish everyone associated with this show the best in their future endeavors, whatever that may be, so. But, yeah, I think I've rambled on long enough. Till the next time we meet, be happy, be safe, live life to the fullest, and enjoy it. Good day, and good